MPs and a matter of car loans, Council of State, and the money we spend in buying vehicles for them to use. Are these justified expenditures by the state?
Well, it is very difficult to answer that question. But the reason being that Article 71 has stated a procedure of determining who should get what. And so if you pass everything through the Article 71, and this is the result, it is difficult to question it. You understand? If you are questioning it, then you are not questioning it on the basis of law, but you are questioning it on the basis of morality. You understand? But since I'm very familiar with what happens in Parliament, or what had happened in Parliament in the past.
As a former MP and a member of the Parliamentary Service Board now.
Yeah, I'm now a member of Parliamentary Service Board, but we have no role to play in the allocation of vehicles or purchase of vehicles for MPs. It is not part of our function at all. We don't have that mandate. But let's come to my experience as a member of Parliament in the past. The first Parliament, when it was established, the government at that time had ordered some saloon vehicles. While those vehicles were on the highway, then we're there when we're all expecting our vehicles, knowing that we will get vehicles that are state-owned, which we will use to perform our duties. If at the end of the time we were leaving, then maybe hand over to the state, or the state will value them the same way as other public servants are treated. But while the vehicles were on the high sea, then the government came and told us that we cannot be using state vehicles. So they were giving us loans to go and purchase our own vehicles. So they gave us 5 million at that time to purchase vehicles, and we could only purchase second-hand vehicles.
And this was which year, 92?
92.
Okay.
And 93.
Okay, 93, yes.
Yeah. So we were given 5 million apiece, and we purchased our vehicles, and they got broken down left, right, center. So the first time that parliamentarians bought new vehicles was 96, when MPP had joined us. So there was pressure from MPP that, look, we cannot be using second-hand vehicles, so we should buy brand new vehicles. Again, so the debate also came back. Should we demand vehicles that are purchased, serviced, and fueled by the state the same way as functionaries of the executive do? That was our demand from the beginning. But we went back and forth until the Minister of Finance went and did the calculations, ran the figures, and they thought that it would be too expensive for the state to buy and own the vehicles, service them, and run them, and then so we can use them for our work. Yeah. So the least costly option was for the state to guarantee a loan for us to buy vehicles, so that that loan will be deducted from our salaries. At that time, President Rawlings was the president, and he said that, look, he doesn't think that ministers who were appointed from Parliament should have a parliamentary vehicle and at the same time have access to state vehicles in the ministry. So I happen to be one of the ministers who was performing that dual role. So me and the class that we belong to, all of us were not given parliamentary vehicles. At all? At all. So they gave the parliamentary vehicles to the non-ministerial MPs. In that case, MPP MPs were in majority. So they used the vehicles. At the end of their tenure, the loan the outstanding balance of the loan would always be deducted from their ex gratia.
Yeah.
Then they will go.
The difference they take away.
The difference they take away. And we landed in a situation where we had to rely on the other public service conditions, where a vehicle you had used, a saloon vehicle, could be sold to you. That was when the vehicles were sold to us, and then the Jacob Echebilamte and the others were making press releases that we have stolen cars, the ministers have stolen cars, and so that was where it began. So when President Kufuor won, the MPs now decided that whether you are a member, you are a minister or not, you take your MP's car, so that at the time they are exiting, they will have no business touching the state vehicles they have been using as ministers. So during President Kufuor's tenure, the MPs who combined as ministers had two vehicles, one vehicle as member of parliament exclusively, then you can be using the other state vehicles. So that's how it has been going. But to cut a long story short, so the procedure has been that the state will not have money to pay for your vehicle.
So they act as guarantors?
Yes, the state acts as guarantor. Then the loan is given to you, and then they begin the deduction. And in fact, because the vehicles, the processes of guaranteeing and so on will be completed somewhere by the end of this year or middle or third quarter, by which time your remaining tenure will not be 4 years. Immediately you come to Parliament, they start deducting something against a car loan you may be taking.
Okay.
So as we sit here now, I believe that the MPs who have done 6 months now, their salaries have been deducted in anticipation of repayment of the loan.
Car loan. Okay.
So my view is that, one, there are 3 questions we have to answer. First, do our MPs need vehicles to perform their duties? One, we have to answer is as a country. If they do, which option should we choose in giving them the vehicles? If they don't need a vehicle, let's say so as a country that our members of parliament don't need vehicles in the performance of their duties. So therefore, if everybody knows about it, and that is what we think is acceptable, then we will not expect them to perform functions which will need vehicles. If that is not the case, and we think that they need vehicles, which is the cheapest option of letting them have access to vehicles? At that time, we settled that taking a personal loan for the vehicle was cheaper to the state than the state buying the vehicles, maintaining them and fueling them. And then the MPs also have an option. In fact, during our time, an MP for Asuna for North, Honorable Amankwa, decided that he was not going to take the loan. Okay. So he didn't take. And so there was no deduction to his salary. So what is available now, the only commitment of the state is that the guarantor. Okay. And also they come in duty free. The vehicles come in duty free. Duty free. Okay. But when you finish and the vehicle, if you are not able to pay fully, and your end of service is used to offset the balance, the vehicle, at any time that you want to sell the vehicle, then the purchaser or you, the seller, must go and pay the duty before you're able to sell it.